Amanda. Sorry, late wave. Another video to my new channel page, whatever you want to call it. Sorry guys, I'm still trying to figure out a intro thing that I can do and how to introduce myself. Okay. I want to talk about some trauma that wasn't necessarily sexual trauma. It was more mental, verbal, and just emotional torment by family. Okay. I'm trying to slouch and not stay sitting straight up because, like, when I sit straight up, like, the top of my head's cut off. Sorry, guys. Trying to sit in the AC in my van, it's more comfortable. Okay. Now that I'm distracted again. Okay. This video is going to be a long one. I'm sorry. There's no way that I can shorten this video because I'm going to have to be digging into little moments that I had forgotten about or just placed out of my mind, just so that I can move on. And keep in mind, anyone that is watching this, I have forgiven the people that I talk about in this video. Okay? It was hard to do, but I did forgive them. But obviously, no, I have not forgotten, and it really has affected me since then. I don't even know how to describe the way that how I lived has really affected me. After my landlord had touched me inappropriately, if you've seen that video, then you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, please go back and watch it and you'll know what I'm talking about. I continued to pay rent at that house. I didn't want my rental history messed up any more than it already was. Plus, I couldn't afford to move. Moving in Texas is very, very, very expensive. And I live on Social Security disability. Sorry guys. I don't know if I'm allowed to smoke cigarettes in these videos, but that is my fidget. That's my stem. That's for me, smoking is my stem. I'm sorry. I'm not advertising it. Don't smoke. It's bad. But for me, just, it's hard for me to concentrate if I'm not, you know, so sorry. Alright. So, I had kind of been off a little bit from my family for a few years at this time. I had kept in moderate contact, and when I say my family, I mean my step family, my stepsister's kids. Okay, sorry, my son walked out and I had to cut that video off real quick. Okay, so have been in moderate contact with my family, and I've been basically having to try and force relationships for many years, you know. So I was trying, and my nephew, Chris, had come to visit, and I was telling him that, you know, oh my God, I so fast forwarded. I am so sorry, guys. Like, I jumped way ahead. Okay. I had met these people, and they lived out of their van. They were a couple. They were really nice, real friendly. It was like a camper van, RV. It was an RV. Sorry, my brain. But so, anyways, they had been parking at Walmart in Quinlan, and they had got run off. They didn't have anywhere else to park, and they were always having to move it. And if you know anything about Texas, it's so hard to park your vehicle if you live in it to be able to sleep or anything like that anywhere. Especially if it's older like theirs was, you know. If you want to rent a spot at a park or something, it has to be newer, it has to be this, it has to be that. So I mean, even if you try to pay to park somewhere to sleep, it's almost impossible. Well, I told them that they could park it at my house, but I didn't know if I was going to get in trouble for it or not, and if the landlord said anything, then we would have to move it. But they could park it there and sleep in the house, since they weren't allowed to live on it or live in it on the property, because of the neighborhood rules and stuff like that. Well, when they were backing it in, it went into the ground and busted my septic system in the house that I was already having issues with my landlord because he had inappropriately touched me. I had told his wife about it. It was known throughout the neighborhood. I wasn't keeping my mouth shut about it. Everyone knew who did it. And my landlord was looking for any reason he could to evict me. And when they ran over the septic and their tire went into the ground and just caved it all in, obviously it wasn't as deep as it should have been, because that shouldn't have been able to happen in the first place. But yeah, their RV kind of went a little bit sideways and was leaning up against my trailer. So yeah, that gave him what he needed to be able to evict me. So before he was able to take me to court or anything like that, after he gave me my notice, I let him know that I would be moving. And I had contacted a friend of mine, a longtime friend. I've known her since I was, 12, 13 years old. Her name is Samantha. Sam is what I call her. And she had sent me money, and she sent it to me to buy a camper. She told me that she would help me. She would help me move. She would, just total blessing. Amazing woman, just amazing. And she's been through hell too, but, okay. My niece's husband, Denny, my nephew, had known these people that, another one of my nephews, had known these people that had a whole bunch of just ghetto campers for cheap, okay? I think $500, $400, something like that. And it was livable, you know, like the electric worked in it and everything, so it was perfect. So Sam sent me the money, and I needed somewhere to put the camper. Well, my nephew Chris had showed up, and we were talking, and he said that I could park the camper on his land for free, not have to pay anything. But I told him that I did want to pay lot rent at least, because I would be using his facilities and his electric. And I ended up moving from Quinlan, from easy living, out of the horrible situation I was in. And I moved to Cedar Creek Lake, to Payne Springs area. And sorry, had to get a drink of my tea. I moved to Payne Springs area into my camper. And this is over in East Texas, okay? Not that it matters, but... Or, well, yeah, it does, because, the heat that was there was just absolutely brutal and insane. Okay, so I'm living in my camper on my nephew's property, and every month on the 1st, when I get money, I give him $200. Well, I hand his wife $200. I had only been there for about a month, maybe, and I started talking to this guy on Facebook. Okay, that's how I meet people. I'm antisocial in real life. I don't really get out much. So the way I meet people is online. Well, I met this guy, and we started talking, and we started seeing each other, met in person, started dating, and then I really wanted out of the camper. So I actually ended up moving in with him. Yes, just a couple months into the relationship. Yes, I was totally stupid. Yes, I have horrible life decisions. I know. Okay. That ended up being a very controlling situation. Extremely. I wasn't even there for 2 months. I noticed all the red flags, and I got out as fast as possible. That man, I'll tell those stories too. His name was Rain, and it. Whew. Okay, so I ended up having my baby daddy, ex-husband, Chuck, moved with me out there into my camper on Chris's property. And that's one of the reasons why I had wanted to move, was because I was living with my ex-husband in a camper. We were not together, and it was just very awkward, and it was just a situation that I didn't want to be in. And, well, Chuck had stayed in my camper. I let him stay there. I told him that he didn't have to pay me anything for rent or anything like that, so while I was living with this other person, he was staying in my camper, keeping it up and all that. I told Chuck had known the situation that I was going through. We had been talking constantly. I had actually got a job at Little Caesars because I couldn't stand being home. And I am disabled. It hurts really bad to work. But that was better than the stuff I was dealing with at home. But so Chuck knew my situation, and I told him that I had to leave. Like, I really had to leave. I had to go back to my camper. And I had to wait for 2.5 weeks. I had to wait in this abusive situation that I was in, and because my nephew Chris was beating around the bush, and I needed to get his permission to come back to my camper on his property. So I had to talk to Chris, and I literally had to beg, and I mean beg, to go back to my camper on his property. I ended up moving back in. I was there for a couple of weeks, and him and his wife had decided that I was no longer allowed inside the house if they weren't there, which was most of the time. They were gone all day, every day. Sorry, this is where it gets brutal, guys. Like, really. For no reason at all. Before anyone says, oh, they were scared you're going to steal from them, no. Actually, I found a whole bunch of my stuff in with theirs. For no reason at all, I was locked out of the house. My daughter shared a room with their daughter. So I was in this state of mind where I've got nowhere else. My kids got nowhere else. At least she's in the house. She's happy. She can shower. She can go to the bathroom when she needs to. She can eat when she needs to. All that, you know. So I was literally treated like I wasn't even human. Like, the house would be locked, and if it wasn't and my niece and Denny or someone else was home or in the other camper on the property where they lived, I had to go get them so that they could let me into the house. If they weren't home, then I wasn't able to use the restroom inside. At one point, I was told that I wasn't allowed to shower in the house anymore. I remember I literally showered outside in the yard with a hose. While everybody was gone one day. After doing me like that for a couple of weeks, they then decided that my daughter was no longer allowed inside the house without them there either, or allowed to live in the house. So I bought her a tent that was really big. Actually, it could have been a 3-bedroom tent, and she called it her house. And We hooked up a AC unit, me and Chuck, sitting on a chair pushed up against the window of her tent, and that way she wouldn't be hot in that Texas heat. I built her an area in the wooded spot beside the property where she could use the restroom in privacy during the day when no one was there to let her in. When they did it to me, that was one thing. But then they turned around and they did it to my daughter. And if you ask me why, I don't know. Still to this day, I don't know. I don't know why they treated us like that. I don't know. What happened, but I was living there when I had ended up getting drugged with LSD by my friend. I've got a video on here about that too. That one's also long, sorry. But ever since I lived on that property, I've still been trying to feel here, like I'm something, like I'm not worthless, like I matter, like I'm human, like I deserve to live, like, I mean, and don't take me like I'm suicidal, because I'm not. It just, I've been trying to heal ever since.